Hello everybody, I know it's been a while since I've uploaded, but I have another video for you, another debate on the shape of the earth, because apparently there's zero conclusive proof we live in a sphere, so it's not my fault that science has failed so miserably and actually given us some good actual evidence that we live in a sphere. So I just jumped on a panel. There's a bunch of Globers providing their proof of the sphere, and I jumped in, and there was like eight of them, and then I was there. And yeah, so they have this new picture of a sunset, and that's like the new, oh, we proved it doesn't work on a flat earth. There's no way this picture, this still frame, can never work on a flat earth. It only works on a globe. So this still image debunks everything. We proved the globe with one image. This is what it's come to. So, I've got the picture up right here on screen. You can see it. That's their proof that the Earth can't possibly be. Anyways, sorry. So that's it, and enjoy the debate, folks.
In the side chat, what do you think about today's subject, or if you want to bring something else to the table, man?
Yeah, I've seen that picture. Rumpus showed it to me. That's like the new go-to globe tard. Oh yeah, look, slam dunk proof. Yeah, debunk this. This is literally.
Well, if you understood it well enough, you realize
I was talking. Some rudely interrupted me. I was talking. Yeah, so that's how Globers always are. It's always about parlor tricks. It's always about, ooh, how do you explain this on a flat earth? And then they show you some dumb shit that probably has a million other explanations. I was watching a sunset the other day. I've seen this multiple times, actually. The bottoms of clouds are dark and shaded, but the edges near, like the side or edges of the clouds facing the horizon, are lit up. You can see that they're brighter there. So
can you show us?
Right.
Can you show us, please?
Right. And this is the standard of evidence for globetards in the 21st
Can you show
century.
us, please?
Look at my picture, but look at your picture.
Well, the bottom line is,
I saw a sunset. I saw a sunset, and it proves the Earth is a sphere. Like, this is how stupid you morons are.
hey Chris, if you had any comprehension of how a sunset actually works, you'll realize that that's perfectly normal. Of course, the sides lit up. First the top, then it gets lower, and it hits the sides, and then it gets lower, and it hits the bottom, and then it goes away.
No, the sun was already really low.
Did you interrupt him, Red Pill? Did you just interrupt him?
The sun was already really low.
Did you just interrupt him? Bob was talking. Did you just interrupt him?
Sean, you're cracked out, dude. Anyways, no, yeah, so that's my observation, and it totally contradicts all your bullshit.
You still did interrupt him.
Can you guys shut up and just get?
No, you just interrupted him after you went on about something interrupting you. So stop being such a hypocrite. See?
Yep, that's it.
Keep going. Show your true colors. Come on.
Come on. Does anybody have a point? Anybody have a point?
I already made it.
That you're a hypocrite.
Just listening to your intellectual argument. I love it.
Silly single frames prove the shape of the Earth. This is what it's come to for you globetards in the 21st century.
Well, that's all it
show
needs.
You the entire sunset, and it'll do it at exactly.
Yeah, you guys should just.
The point is more that the proofs are so incredibly simple that we don't need more than that.
Right, simple for
obvious.
simple minds.
But yeah, simple minds is exactly the issue here.
Simple for simple minds.
You keep interrupting, Red Pill. What's the deal? You
John,
came in here complaining
you're
because you were being interrupted, and now you're interrupting every single person that speaks.
Stop whining.
So
you say you have
there, Red?
Red Pill, that your mind is too simple to understand simple proofs. I understand. I'm sorry for you that your mind is so simple that you can't understand simple proofs.
So I'm trying to respond to
really
Bob.
sad for you, Red Pill, that your mind is so simple that the simple proofs that we give to little children are too hard for you to even understand.
Well, no, you guys put the simple truth in the textbooks for the children. You guys put the simple truths in the textbooks for the children. Bob, what's your EQ? Bob, what's your EQ score?
Yeah. EQ? My EQ?
Yeah, do you know what EQ is, Bob? You know what EQ is?
Yeah, it's what you're completely missing, Red Pill.
Bob, what's your EQ score, Bob?
No clue.
Score.
What an idiot! Doesn't even know what EQ is. You guys are so fucking.
It's very low, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I can tell.
I think the person having bad
let me just say
dialogue
something.
here
Every
is a
single
little
globetard who's obsessed with my IQ has proven they have a low EQ, but they don't even know what EQ is. They're out there Googling it right now.
We don't care about your IQ. We care about how much you boast about your IQ. That's what we care about.
So you do have a low
we mock
EQ.
you because you claim to be high IQ.
So
that's where
only
we are
person
with your
demonstrating a low
IQ.
EQ
We
here is
mock
you, Red
you
Pill.
because you
Red
think
Pill,
you're high IQ.
You're the only one demonstrating a low EQ here. Your actions and words, Red Pill, are demonstrating a low EQ.
How low your
you're very clearly, Red Pill, demonstrating your own low
You're triggered. Wow, what a triggered little Red Pill.
You're demonstrating your own low EQ here, Red Pill, by your way of talking about it. So obviously you either don't know what low EQ is, or you have such a low EQ you don't understand that you're demonstrating by your actions and words.
Let me educate Bob the science guy. Let me educate Bob the science guy. Hey everybody, let me educate Bob the science guy.
Continue to demonstrate.
Let me give Bob the science guy.
Hang on. Red, do you stop talking at all? Because you have gone nonstop and not allowed anybody to talk since you got here.
Oh, while 5 people talk at the same time at me. Oh,
I agree. No one should be cutting you off, but you don't stop.
We weren't doing that until you got here, dude.
Hey, Red.
You started this.
Let me school Bob.
Started this.
Let me school Bob on what EQ means.
EQ is what you don't have.
This hangout was a peaceful
emotional quotient.
Right.
This hangout was a peaceful hangout till you showed up.
Now, can you guys focus on evidence instead of EQ scores and personal things?
This was a peaceful hangout till you showed up.
About the equinox. Focus on that.
That's what you can't focus on.
Yeah, let's talk about equinoxes.
You lack
Let's talk about single frame images.
Yeah, let's talk about how the sun rises due from the equator, from due east and sets due west, and how that's possible on a flat Earth where the sun circles on top of Frisbee.
Yeah, I know. Ooh, yeah, look, everybody. If the Earth is a sphere, then how do you explain squirrel migratory pattern?
Wait a minute, guys.
I've got
some flat Earth proof. Can I present 2 seconds? I just want to present 2 seconds.
I would literally not talk to this fucking idiot.
Yeah, Dean is great.
No,
Dean
I've got something to present. I've got some.
Yes, thank you. Everybody let Dean go, please. Let Dean go, please.
Your shit out, right? But can we go one at a time?
Can you guys stop interrupting Dean, please?
Wait a minute, guys. I just want to present something. It's two photos that Jose sent me.
I travel a lot and I fly a lot, and I can see the curvature when I fly.
Okay, so 35,000 feet, you can see it, right? That's what you're saying?
Generally speaking, I can see a slight curve to it, yeah.
Okay, so Neil deGrasse Tyson says that you can't see it at that altitude, so I really...
This really doesn't matter. We have satellites.
That stuff is flat. That stuff is flat.
I don't know, 1 foot swells here, whereas this tsunami is about 2 meters,
Dean,
maybe
you
2.5 meters.
You saw that video finally, right?
Was it? Oh God, people have sent me so many videos.
Red Pill, your video?
No, it's the one where the guy demonstrated the diffraction limit, bottom up disappearance with the hallway and the flashlight. You said you were going to watch it, get back to me. Did you finally watch it and actually come up with a rebuttal or something?
Well, no, I watched it, and most of it is just about the Rayleigh criteria, which is, and then he gets. There's a funny misconception in there where he thinks perspective alters geometry in real life.
Well, how do you explain the real world observations?
Riley.
So you're admitting that his video demonstrates bottom up disappearance on a flat surface?
Absolutely not. No.
What's your explanation?
Rayleigh criteria.
So do you deny or admit that there is bottom up disappearance taking place?
Define bottom up as in an object big enough to not disappear. Wait a minute, let me finish.
Did you watch the video?
Yes, with his little lights and stuff. Yes.
Okay, what did he do? I don't even think you watched it. What did he do? Tell me the setup.
He set up 2 cameras at either end. He had 2 lights either end, and he demonstrated.
You're literally saying you did not watch that.
Is that not the one that you sent me?
You completely botched it, dude. You either have bad memory or you're a fucking retard.
Metal Slugs, you gotta mute yourself while you're not speaking because you feeding through some noise over here.
Yeah, Dean, that's just not what he did, so I'm not sure what you're talking about.
I'm not sure which one I've watched then. That's the one that I've watched.
Dean, can you pull up
Well,
the
then
full
you must
images?
you must have like Alzheimer's or some shit.
Dean, can you pull up the full images of what
Really?
you're presenting?
That's all you got. You're an idiot. You got Alzheimer's.
Stop crying, Carlos. Stop crying, Carlos.
Grow
Guys
up.
love playing victims. Why do globetards love playing victims so much?
He's a fucking energy vampire. He's really.
Anyways,
No, that's what you're doing.
So I'll
No,
go
go
ahead
ahead.
and I'll bring the video up right now if Dean forgot it completely.
Here.
Dean, can you pull up the
Please
full
bring that
images
up.
and not the cropped
I'm
images?
gonna go get that video for Carlos.
Yeah. Why, Chris?
Because you cropped out the best part.
I cropped out the best part.
Yeah, we've looked at this about half a dozen times with Jose already. We've already pointed out all the issues with these images, but I can pull it up with you if you want.
Wait a minute, give me a sec. You're just going to say there's refraction there?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I know there's refraction. I don't.
Okay.
Why does that matter?
So the refraction is what's causing the obstruction.
Oh, right. Okay. So I've got a question for you here, Chris. This is brilliant. Do you
There you
think
go. That's the full image right there. Yeah.
do you think that geometric obstruction is caused by refraction? I wanted to ask you this.
What do you mean by geometric?
Right. So do you think this ocean here is refraction?
It's possible that the
No.
Wow,
this ocean is coming up. This ocean is coming up. You've just said it's because of refraction.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't.
All right.
That.
Okay. Why is the ocean coming up?
Okay, so if you scroll to the left,
Yes.
okay, you see those black windows? Those black windows are skewed. They're actually pulled down.
Yep,
So we do know that there is refraction doing something.
no,
either
absolutely.
Pulling things up or pulling things down, or both.
Well, at this very small band here, yes. Yeah.
Very small band. Is that?
Yep.
3 feet, 4 feet.
No, probably it's here. So about there.
Now compare the other. Image. Just sort of overlay them. There you go. Look.
Yeah,
at the
they are
difference.
overlaid.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, I think I figured this out. You guys think that this ocean is being pulled up because of refraction, but I don't think.
Yes, it is.
Right. Okay. Now I understand why everybody always gets heated about these things. Now, do you know that refraction is not altering this bit here? Can you determine that? You know where I've just wait a minute, there.
Right, because refraction is strongest near the surface of the water.
Right. Okay. Do you know that refraction is not happening here?
No, I don't know that.
Because we're actually seeing water basically, and it's only.
So what?
Well, because the distance.
The water level can rise. We all know that.
Wait a minute. The distance to me to that water is really, really short. The distance from me to, this bit here is really, really long. Hence refraction. Now, this is what I actually got to a conclusion when I was just listening into one of the things, and you were all looking at these. Is flat earthers think that refraction pulls the oceans up.
It does.
And what are the visual telltale signs of refraction?
Red Pill has 6 stories of hidden due to refraction.
Wait a minute.
The water up.
Yeah, and let me just butt in real quick. Dean, this is like 2 weeks ago. I sent him this video for him because he says that bottom-up disappearance due to the diffraction limit, due to perspective, is not possible. He just says it's just not possible. I sent him a video that set out to test that very thing. He hasn't responded to. He actually did right now, but he incoherently babbled things that weren't even in the test. So I would like Dean, who's been saying it's impossible for things to disappear bottom up due to the diffraction limits and the physics of light. I would like him to address a video and an observation that went out to specifically test this. It's been 2 weeks, and all he has is an incoherent regurgitation of something that doesn't even exist.
Play it.
All right, here we go. I've been on this show before playing this shit. I'm gonna have to do it again. Here I go. Let me share my screen.
So now we believe in hologram water?
Well, that's what you guys believe in. That's what you guys believe in.
No. To us, it's a curve.
You guys invented superlumin.
No,
You guys invented
hold on.
superlumin.
Yeah, I need a second in. Welcome, Rebel Rob. I apologize. Somebody wanted to hide your message for not reading it, but they didn't realize you didn't have a wrench. So I apologize. You were timeout, but I gave you the mod now, so you can freely chat and welcome. What's up, man?
Okay, really quick. I just want to show this here real quick because I've already been on Jose's show presenting this. Dean saw it, but for some reason he doesn't remember anything. I think that's just a convenient way. I think that's just a convenient way to not have to deal with the reality.
Well, my God, Red, you've got me dead to rights here now because I'm looking at it. So how stupid am I going to look? Go for it.
Anyways, okay. So no, there's not two cameras at either end of the hallway. There is no two flashlights at either end.
No, wait a minute. I apologize. It was not this that I was referring to when I was describing that.
So you never saw the video that I specifically linked you?
No.
Oh, great. Wonderful. Okay, so then that's a no. And so when it comes to things disappearing bottom up due to the fraction limit, video, Life is Short, went out to specifically test whether or not this is possible. Because we've had multiple videos from multiple people, Globers, Jose himself, flat earthers who've gone out, they put flashlights at the end of a long hallway, they walk to the other side, they lower the camera to the floor, and the flashlight disappears before the camera even touches the floor. That's not possible.
Is that a flat level floor?
According to Globers, this is impossible because parallel lines never meet, and the flat geometry of the thing and all this stuff. So they have their presumptions about how the world works, but then we have real world tests and observations. So he put two cameras on the floor, 400 feet away, light on the other end of the hallway that was just resting on the floor. Two different cameras, because Globers or is curving and all types of, just okay, whatever. You can argue that maybe I never bought it, but this guy went to test it. So he put two cameras next to each other. This is a genius way to test whether or not the flashlight is disappearing because of an uneven floor, or it's disappearing because of the diffraction limit, dependent on the aperture size of your camera. So he put two different cameras on the floor, and one camera was a Canon EOS 70D, big ass lens, and the other one was just a tiny little lens on the back of his iPhone. Very different lenses, very different aperture sizes, very different cameras. So he places them both, center a lens at the exact same height on the floor. It disappears in one and it doesn't disappear in the other. Same floor. So I'll just show a few images from it, so you guys can get a sense. I'm going to put the link actually in the chat right now, so everybody can go check out some high IQ observations. Let me just
Quit saying high IQ observation. That's so dumb.
Can I ask you a question about it?
You realize how dumb you sound?
Wait till the end. Wait till the end. Stop
till the end. Now, Rumpus had his moving the globe post, which is typical of Globers. They always have to try to deny. He said it's the f-stop change, and of course it was wild speculation. He didn't know that was the case. He's just speculating wildly. So let me just show this to you guys. So here he is basically saying,
I've debunked this video.
No, no way.
Yeah, I did.
So, all right. So here it is Canon EOS 70D. Canon EOS 70D on the floor. Flashlight is visible. Great. So now we go forward a little bit. This is with the iPhone, smaller, tiny little lens on the back of his phone. The light is at the camera's at the same height as the other camera, but it's not visible in the iPhone camera. Then he lifts the camera, the iPhone, off the stack of papers where he had it on top of, so that it was elevated to the same height as the where the hell is it? As the Canon EOS 70D. Where the hell is that camera lifted off the paper part?
337, I think. Is it? I think. Yeah.
Hang on. It'll come up in a moment. Let me play it in 2 times speed. 2 times speed. Okay, now this is his camera. This is the iPhone. Cannot see the flashlight on the floor. Camera then lifted off the paper. So now he lifts the camera off the paper a few inches, and guess what happens?
Yeah.
Oh shit! There's the flashlight again.
Yeah.
No. Let me just set this up for everybody.
Yeah,
According to you guys, it has nothing to do with diffraction limits, nothing to do with the optical instrument you're using, nothing to do with the camera, nothing to do with the vision, nothing to do with the physics of light and optics. It's because of the physical geometry and that there's an obstruction in the way.
Yeah, so, you can see it in the reflection. See how uneven the reflection is? That's an uneven floor.
But the other camera gets the light at the same height.
They're so stupid. They don't get it. They just don't understand it.
What's the difference in the size of the head?
Uneven
Sean
floor.
Hawkins,
It's not an uneven floor.
let me rebut. Hang on. Sean Hawkins tried to be Mr. Smarty Pants. Let me rebut him. Sean, if the reason you can't see the light is because there's a physical, blocking it, then why, when both cameras are at the exact same height, the light is visible in one camera, but not the other camera?
Optical resolution of the lens of the camera phone.
Not optical resolution. Those are hot spots.
Wait. So you're telling me that by lifting the iPhone up a few inches, the optical resolution increases?
No, it separates the light that's blending into the floor.
So many people
It physically separates the light that's blending into the floor by moving the flashlight.
So what you're telling me is that changing the angle of the camera, changing the angles involved to objects in the distance, can make things reappear from the bottom.
No. I'm saying if you have a crappy camera phone or a camera on your phone, stuff's going to blend in. Stuff's going to get lost.
Oh, so things can disappear not due to Earth curve, but due to the optics of vision and your visual instrument. That's our point.
A combination of both in this case.
No.
But
that's our point, you idiot.
So if you get a big enough lens, you can see over there.
Man? If you can lift that light up and you can still see it, it's not due to Rayleigh criteria.
Wait, I never said Rayleigh criterion, you idiot.
That's what disappearing due to perspective.
I never said Rayleigh. No, it's not. I don't care about it.
Okay, if you say, hey, look at that thing with 4 wheels, a steering wheel, a glove box, a roof, and a trunk, and an engine, and I say, what, that car? You say, oh, I never said car.
You know where
That's
Rayleigh
what you're saying. And you're describing perfectly you're describing the Rayleigh criterion, but you don't know it.
Describing the Rayleigh criterion.
That's the Rayleigh. Shut up. Sean, do you know where the Rayleigh criteria originated, bro?
He doesn't know. He just talking out his freaking butt.
Rayleigh criterion is generally used in the laboratory. It has to do with microscopes and when you're looking at tiny things up close, not bigger things far away.
What?
Right.
That's actually a plastic telescope.
Mute it. Let him talk. I will not interrupt him anymore. I've learned a lesson. Thank you.
Sean is incoherent.
No, I would like to get one word out. Yeah, I would like to get one word out. First of all, Rebel, mic check. Can you get a sentence out because you haven't been? Everybody keep jumping on you. Rebel.
Yeah, what's up, man?
Thank you, brother, for jumping in. You can chime in whenever you can. You know how it is. It's like a little war zone. I want really quick.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say this looks like a hospital, and so obviously Sean doesn't know the floors in the hospital are all level, and those lights that you see are not because of waves on the floors, because those are hot spots coming from the light.
Here's the other
so I'm
thing.
sure if you raise the camera up, you would see even more of those lights.
How do you get a hot spot?
Hang on, I don't want to interrupt you,
because
but
the lights are,
hang on, I don't want to interrupt you, guys. This is so damn important that I don't want Sean to I don't want him to weasel away with it. This observation.
I didn't get to the end of my point, but go ahead, I guess.
Whether the floor is even or unlevel or not is irrelevant because this test is designed to test whether or not the obstruction of the light is caused by an uneven floor. And it clearly shows that it's not caused by an uneven floor. But that's sorry. I just had to get that in.
You're using two different lenses with different sizes, Red Pill.
Sorry?
That's the point. That's the point, Carlos.
Using two different lenses with different sizes. I pointed this out to you.
That obstruction is observer dependent. That's exactly that's her point.
You know, no, but an iPhone's camera is way better than the image you're presenting. The image you're presenting is really quite heavily pixelated and blurred. So he's got his camera on the lowest setting possible because an iPhone camera is way better than that.
Hang on. Wait a minute. Wait.
No, wait, because when I gave the chance for Rob to talk, I was going to make a point, but I let him speak because he was just quiet. But I want to make a point because you mentioned the Riley criterion, Red Pill philosophy, and you
when did I mention Rayleigh criterion, Jose?
You mentioned it 5 minutes ago, bro. I can scroll back and find it.
Sean mentioned it first, and I told him I'm not mentioning it.
Okay, he mentioned it, but you gave a rebuttal to that. And you mentioned Rayleigh criteria to answer Sean, right? I mean, yeah, it was him that brought it, but you mentioned it because I want to give.
He brought it up.
Okay, he brought it up, and you. Okay, he brought it up, and you addressed it, right?
He brought it up saying I'm saying Rayleigh criterion, and I told him I'm not saying Rayleigh criterion.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
because I was going to give Dean a chance to give it a script, to give a, I don't know, Riley criterion something, because he knows a little bit about this. Oh, go ahead.
No, I want to respond to what we're looking at here in the experiment.
Perfect.
Now,
Dina and Red.
Yeah, because I obviously now I've looked at it, Red. So there's one weird thing that I don't know why he has decided to omit this information. Well, omit this as a contributing factor in the test, which is actually quite severe. So. Can you see my little sketch pad? Can we see that? Is that visible?
Yes.
Yeah, right, awesome. So the issue that we've got here is, in a camera we have lens groups and we have convex and concave. So we have lens elements that look like this, and then we have lens elements that actually counteract this, that look like this. And they're put together in groups to do various different things. Now, one of the most important ones is the one at the end, surprisingly enough, of the lens. Because the whole reason a lens is there for is at the end, you've got this piece of glass, and you've got light rays that are entering this piece of glass and then being controlled due to refraction, believe it or not. Amazing. And we've got light rays that come in and do this. Now, flaw number one with this experiment, there's two flaws actually that I see. So one is sensor, the other one is lens. So the lens problem, first of all, on an iPhone, I've got a lens that's this big. It's physically about this big, so less than a centimeter. So if we zoom this in, it's doing exactly the same, no different to its bigger size counterpart. It's doing this, basically. Which means if this lens is 1 centimeter and he's 4.5 centimeters to the center, it means it can get light all the way up to 5.5 centimeters on the iPhone.
Thank you. I like this.
Awesome.
I like this a lot.
Now, the issue with this is when you have
my point. Like it. Go ahead.
When you actually have a bigger lens, like in the the actual lens that it's using, I forget what it is.
There's a Canon EOS 70, much bigger lens, yeah.
Yeah. So the glass element at the front, if we were to put the glass elements at 4.5, which is here, centimeters, and compare that to the iPhone lens element at 1 centimeter, we can see that the difference in light that this lens can detect is astronomical.
Wow, that's wow. That sounds like my point, Dean. That sounds like my point, Dean. Thanks, man. Keep going.
Red Pill, I got a.
Right. So wait a minute. Let me finish.
Let Dean finish.
You guys want to check it out?
Yeah.
Let Dean finish.
I have over there in the distance.
No, wait a minute.
Wait.
You see that?
Carlos, shut up. Carlos, you're interrupting, man.
Yeah. So just give me 2 seconds, Carlos. Wait a minute, Carlos. Can you hear me, or have you blocked me, you little bastard?
I think he blocked me.
Carlos, just
can you hear me?
Why is Carlos?
Hang on. Let me just go around the show.
Anyways,
hang on, Dean. I gotta show.
Hey, Carlos, Carlos, wrong timing, bro. The worst timing ever. You gotta stay on mute, Carlos. They're not done yet, Carlos. Please stay on mute, bro.
He's trying to save Dean from his own death.
Trying to save me from my own death. So anyway,
yes,
yeah.
Dean,
I thought you were done with the presentation.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and respond to Dean. I'll go ahead and respond to Dean.
Wait a minute. Let me just do the two. Let me just do the two problems that I see at the moment. So yeah, one is the lens size difference.
I noticed you haven't introduced a floor yet, a bumpy floor yet. Great, I like that. Keep going.
Well, I don't care about the bumpy floor at the moment.
Oh, you guys did before until now. That's great.
Don't label me you guys. So the lens differences means that depending on what field of view this has got as well, light can actually come in and do this all the way. So it can get, it's basically getting a lot of light, whereas the tiny little one is only getting an angle like this, whereas this is getting this, which is quite a huge difference.
So basically what you're saying is...
Wait a minute, let me finish. You can address these in a second. Let me just get both of them out. And then the other one is, well, it's lens plus field of view. Sorry, I've swapped these. These are wrong. That's lens plus field of view. This is sensor plus field of view. So this now plus field of view means that this tiny little iPhone sensor, which doesn't have any manual controls either, it's doing automatic aperture and ISO, digital ISO adjustment, versus a Canon APC size sensor, which is getting a lot more light, and just night and day compared to the differences. What we've got is, I think it's APC size. What we've got here is the wide-angled view that you've got, or that he's got on. It's not a very good iPhone, I'll tell you that. It's not like an X or something where you could zoom in, I don't think. Yeah, he's cropping it, and he's using the minimum amount of pixels to represent this tiny little light a long distance away. Now, what he probably should have done is had the light close enough to be able to discern that it's a light, because at the moment the pixels on this sensor.
Dean, are you trying to extend this out to the show end so I can't respond? Is that what you're trying to do here, bro?
Yeah, kind of, if you want.
Yeah, so it seems like it.
No, we have 40 minutes to go in this show. 40 minutes to go. Go ahead.
Oh my God!
I'll be back in 39 minutes then.
Yeah, do that. No, all I'm saying is this is completely understandable to me. The main lens picks up more light, actual physical light. Yeah. Do that.
We get the point. We get it.
Yeah.
So let me just first establish one thing. Dean has now thrown the floor, the bumpy floor argument. He's thrown it out the window.
Well. Can I just respond to that point? Because you said I've done something that I haven't.
You can go for 40 minutes, and I'll say one thing, and then you can go again. No, go ahead.
No,
100% too. Let me know.
I'll respect you if I say something that you didn't say. You're welcome to interrupt me, but I did not say that. I don't know about the flaw, and I'm less bothered. I am more bothered about this thing, the difference in the lens size at the left-hand side. Okay. I'm not saying the floor's flat or bumpy. I'm just saying, to me, the lens is more important.
So you've never used bumpy floor as an explanation for why flashlights disappear in the distance when they lower the camera? You've never used the bumpy floor?
Maybe if it obviously looked like a bumpy floor.
All your Glober buddies use it.
Well, that's fine for them, I guess.
Okay, all right. So let me just make that point then for everybody else who uses bumpy floors. Dean did not say anything here in his explanation about bumpy floors. In fact, the reason he's trying to explain how a flashlight disappears bottom up in the distance in one camera, not the other, is purely dependent on the optics of the instrument you're using. So number one, I hope Sean Hawkins, I saw him looking down. Hopefully he's been taking notes, because this is going to be the new argument you need to use, because you can't use bumpy floors anymore. You freaking retard. Now, let me just, I'll end it with this.
Don't worry.
Take your notes, Sean. Take your notes. So here's the thing. So if it's not disappearing because of a physical obstruction in the floor, be it bumps or sphericity, the earth curve itself, but is disappearing from the bottom because of the nature of the optical instrument you're using, then we kind of have an issue, because you guys say the reason things disappear bottom up is because the physical geometry of the object in front of you, like the earth curve, not freaking optics dependent on your eyeball and your lens and all this shit.
Can I respond?
Let me just say one last thing. Everything you just said is the cause of destruction is not a physical bulge in front of you. So thank you.
Brilliant. Awesome. So what I said is why a tiny little pinprick of a light that measures probably less than 1 pixel on a iPhone sensor disappears. The one thing that I did not, wait a minute, the one thing that I did not is this also applies to a huge container ship that fills 20% of the frame, even though I can't see 50% of it.
Right, moving the globe post.
No. So, wait a minute. Just last point, Carlos. Last point, Carlos.
400-foot hallway, not good enough, but a still image of a sun.
So here we go. Here's the ocean, and we have a huge container ship. Now, not one part of this container ship can be disappearing bottom up.
Oh, how do you know it's not disappearing? The same reason the flashlight disappeared in the hallway, because of the optics of the instrument.
That could be light diffraction and the Rayleigh criteria.
So you're telling me things can disappear bottom up due to light diffraction and Rayleigh criteria, not Earth curve? Whoa.
Nothing has disappeared from the bottom up. Nothing has disappeared from the bottom up. Are you saying that flashlight's disappeared from the bottom up?
Yeah, I mean that's obvious.
Okay, so I can't see the top of it now.
Wait, you don't think it disappeared from the bottom up?
Can I see the top of it?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull the video for you.
No, okay, so I can see. So I can see.
You asked for clarification. I'm giving it to you. When the camera is lower to the floor, which is what the flat earthers have been saying for the last like fucking year and a half.
You don't have to put on play school voice. Go on.
The angles involved to the camera that you're using, whatever instrument it is, the angles are different. So you cannot see it. Hang on, let me get it for you. You cannot see.
You're not sharing, by the way, if you wanted to show it.
Let me get that. Share. Okay. When the camera is lower to the floor, you cannot see the light.
No, but we can see the top of it, right? Yeah.
Well, that might actually be visible if you slow the video down as he lifts the camera up, because now when he lifts the camera up, what was not visible before because the camera was too close to the floor becomes visible. So it's not like the door is missing high up in the air.
Awesome.
It's the tiny thing on the floor that's reappearing. So let's play that.
Yeah, the light should have only dimmed.
Wait a minute.
If you're bottom up, it should have only dimmed.
This is
some of the light.
This is my last question then. So, Red, when you get an example that shows me that an object disappears from bottom up, not disappears, but from bottom up, and I can see the top of it, and that is predictable, and that you can measure it, and that we can replicate it, you might be onto something, even though geometrically and mathematically it's impossible, and you're not. But I would accept that a lot more than a light disappearing from an iPhone sensor. I can make a bird that I was taking a photograph disappear from a fucking iPhone sensor.
Can I present now?
Anyway, go for it, Carlos.
You do understand that is my point.
This guy's trying to make an argument about all floors not being a bumpy, not floors being bumpy is not a thing over one floor experiment. That's who you're arguing with. A guy that thinks an experiment over one floor negates all bumpy floor arguments.
Anyway,
that's who you're arguing with.
Carlos is next. What's that, Carlos?
So I actually believe that it has to do with the geometrics of the floor and the lenses. So I got an example here for you. Right? So I have a headlamp here, pretty bright, right? And it's shining at my phone over there with a zoom lens. And I have a box that I'm going to use as obstruction, representing the undulation.
Sorry to interrupt, man. Can Farmer's Boy drop? Because Life is Short wants to join. So somebody who's not saying anything intelligent.
Yeah, Life is Short is the expert on this.
Then drop, Red Pill. You haven't said anything intelligent once.
Outclasses all.
Are you still watching?
We can get Life is Short. I might even drop. I think I'll drop for Life is Short.
Somebody on the ball might drop.
Red Pill.
Anybody want to drop?
Yeah, Red Pill, you should. You're kind of an idiot.
Red Pill. No, hang on. I'm trying to show him something.
Incel in his basement. What the?
Red Pill.
Bitch made.
Red Pill.
Incel in his basement, dude.
Red Pill. Are you paying attention?
Not to you, man. Just
hang on.
Nobody's talking to you.
Life is Short is more important right now.
Yeah, Carlos, just go on mute.
No.
Bro.
No, you kind of God.
Listen, I'm gonna go ahead and drop, guys, because Life is Short is
anyway,
the expert
no.
on this.
Look, I was about to show you a good example. Look.
Okay, fine. I'll stick around for a minute, and then we got to get life insured here to school you fools.
Okay, all right. So there's my light. There's my light. I have an obstruction here, which is this box. I have this lens with a small pinhole. I don't know if you can see it or not. Yeah, I'll show you. I'll pull it out. See that? So since I don't have two cameras, I'm just gonna make the hole smaller. So let's say this is the iPhone lens, right? I'm gonna put it here. Okay. So this is the image I get right there. So you see the box, the light, and it's obstructing the light. You barely see some of the glow on the edge of the box. Now look what happens when I remove the this lens cap and I have a bigger lens. Okay. Now look at that. Isn't that brighter?
What are you doing, man?
No, it's just funny because they don't even realize they keep demonstrating our point that obstruction can be observer dependent. They don't even realize it. They're so desperate. Okay, I think I'm gonna go ahead and drop for life.
You cannot obstruct anything on a flat surface. That is
See you later, Red.
stone.
No, wait a
Sean,
minute.
you're contradicting what he just said.
Yeah,
that's the thing we're challenging is that you guys say nothing can ever be obstructed on a flat surface, and Red Pill is challenging that. Yeah, but his whole thing was challenging that.
It's not being obstructed, dude. It's not being recorded by a sensor. There's a difference.
No, we just
proved that there's a difference between something not being able to be recorded on sensor.
Just prove that there's line of sight.
Physically vanishing.
Okay, guys. Life fell short. Life fell short is about to join. He just joined. Life fell short. Welcome to the panel. You have been listening in the side chat. I'm pretty sure so. And it's a little bit of a rough neighborhood. The last 20 minutes was okay. One-on-one with Red Pill and Dean. Hopefully this go well, guys. Please respect. If the guys that are common, regularly here in the panel are not able to get a word out of question, hang in there. I want Life Fell Short to be heard because a lot of people is not subscribed to him that are subscribed to my channel. I want him to be heard and do his presentation. So you're gonna get a little interruption and questions, but hang in there, man. We all have to have thick skin. You know how it goes. Welcome and carry on. Take over, bro.
So the first issue is I'm pretty objective about this. Obviously I think we live on a flat plane, but I have no problems with alternative explanations for things either. The problem with the whole thing was, can you get something to disappear based on aperture size? And that was kind of the premise for the whole thing. And I would say that a very reasonable counter argument is whether or not the floor is uneven or not. I don't have a problem with that.
Sorry to interrupt. I've got a question after this.
I know. I got you. I'll get it. So the reason I did it this way was to try to get a tall enough camera where the center of the aperture would be high enough to negate, a possible uneven floor. So this is, roughly 4 centimeters off the ground. So my hope was that, this floor would not have a 4 centimeter hump or some kind of obstruction in the middle. 4 centimeters is it can be pretty large. So that to me is a valid argument. So what my point was, I would need to get back to this location. I would have to do some kind of, I would think a laser or something like that would be unobstructed across that floor would be a great way to prove that point or not. But I still think, regardless of that, then that only just proves that uneven surfaces can obstruct things with distance. And then, so I did this video called The Concept for Vision, where you just map out by the rule of halves how a small obstruction in the foreground could obstruct something further down the road. And you could just extend an uneven floor for miles without ever having to induce a curvature rate, an overall curvature rate. So that to me is the first point. It could be aperture and it could be uneven floor. The reason I think it's aperture driven is because of the way the entire floor sets evenly in the distance with the iPhone, the way the crack underneath that door is seen with the EOS, and the way it's just and the floorboard and the distance, all of that is completely obstructed linearly, like very evenly, not not unevenly. So that's why I kind of think it's that. The second objection is that light is entering through the upper aspect of the lens, and because the lens is taller, correct?
Yes, that was mine.
And that you are getting light. The problem with that is I don't see any lens physics that supports that you can get rays from the top of the lens to render an image as if it were below the center of the lens center. And so the reason that people can obstruct, so I think the other person was starting to obstruct their larger aperture lens with something smaller and then saying, look, I can still see it. Is that right? Is that what you were getting at? But
Shane, go on mute, man. What are you doing, bro? You can't even hear. Life is short, man.
Sorry. All right, hold up. Sorry, fuck.
So the whole reason you can do that, though, is because you're creating a virtual image. So if you have a large aperture like that, you have to get beyond at least one focal length of that camera system in order to get the blockage. So, in other words, if I were to take my large aperture camera and I were to physically block it beyond just one focal length out, then I would get a physical blockage on my sensor. I would not be able to see through that thing. But if I take that same obstruction, like a piece of paper or tape or something like that, and I obstruct half my lens right at the lens, I'll still be able to see the entire image because I'm creating a virtual image on the inside of F2. So there's a link. I'm on my phone, so I apologize. I can't drop the link. But if you look up on Google, how can you see through half your lens being blocked or something like that? I can't remember. Let me see if I can find the verbiage. But there's a great paper on it. Goes through how virtual images are created when you obstruct too near within the focal length. You have to get beyond at least the focal length of your camera, and then you'll see that indeed it is physically obstructed. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, and I really did like the experiment, but the problem is people are using what you did, which isn't, and tying it to what we see with ships going over a horizon. So using your conclusions and your experiment to support the statement that things disappear from the bottom up is actually incorrect. And you've not, and to your all fairness, you've not stated that once. You're just saying that due to diffraction and aperture, that things can disappear, and especially something like light from a distance away that's actually quite small and minuscule. And I would agree with you.
Well, I would agree, except that the light disappeared from the bottom in this example, like within the iPhone. When I obstructed the iPhone or placed the iPhone to the same.
Sean, shut up, man. Sean, shut up.
So the issue, I mean, again,
but then I can't rule out uneven floors, right? For that particular instance.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know what the floor is. I don't like speculating and looking. Obviously uneven, because it could be anything, to be fair. But the point still stands, is you've got a small, so what you're actually looking for is visible light from a light source, and it's this tiny point. Now that point is going to probably, size relationship wise on the sensor, represent a pixel, if that, on a CMOS sensor. Because of the distance away. On an iPhone, I'm talking about an iPhone now, not the EOS, which I think will be APS size, not APC, like I previously said. So the issue with that is you're trying to represent something smaller than a pixel. Now that's fine, because we have subsampling of pixels, and and a lot of phones now can kind of assemble what should be there, even when it's crossing like sensor pixel boundaries and all that kind of stuff. But the issue that I've got is you're doing this with a single point, and the smallest thing that you could do it with is something that is smaller than a pixel. That does not substantiate the claim, hey, if this was taking up 50 pixels, I can make 25 of them disappear from the bottom up. That statement there is inherently and geometrically wrong, and it doesn't matter what photographic terms you put around it. It's just wrong. Now, if the statement is, I can make something due to either light diffraction, automatic aperture, or sensor pixel interpolation disappear when it's apparently only a pixel in size, and a light source at a distance on a crap iPhone? And I'd say, yep, absolutely, you probably can.
Okay, Ian, fair enough.
One
second.
Let me summarize real quick. Sorry, I just want to get this out.
Shut up, mind of God.
So I agree with. So what you're saying is, then we agree that things that are too small, less than a pixel, obviously are not going to render on the sensor. That's correct. I agree with that. I think everyone would agree with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my point was, what in that longer series and all the video was why does that occur? Why does that occur in those? It's not just pixel size, it's the angle at which an image can be rendered to that pixel. You need an angle, like contextual information through the lens, through the two focal points, through f1 and f1 prime to create the image on the other side, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so my point is, how does that angle, can you induce that angle sooner than, let's say, when you're looking at the sky or when you're looking at a plane in the sky? And my point was that when you press yourself against the tangible surface, you're inducing that angle sooner. And so your horizon is brought nearer to you.
That's the question I have about this is we're talking about a light source in a distance. Why is nobody mentioning that if you're putting this on a larger scale, say the sun would have to come down to the horizon level in order for this to be possible?
We're not talking about the sun, man. No, we're not talking about that. So wait, Dean,
the man of God, hold on 1 second. The man of God, hold on 1 second. He had a question, a legit question to Liefeld. Sure, don't interrupt the man of God. I want Liefeld to answer, please.
My bad.
Well, yeah. So the sun.
I mean, I'm not talking just about sun. Let me clarify that. We're talking about things disappearing due to aperture or due to whatever. You're bringing the light source, the thing that you're looking at through the camera, down to the level of the viewer or the aperture, okay, of the observer. So if we're talking about anything in the distance, particularly the sun, this is what I'm thinking because you're using a light source for this. Things can disappear in the distance due to many things, topography, whatever, but they have to be near at the horizon, right?
Well, picture it this way. So if I were to bring that light, that pen light in the example that that's in that video, if I were to bring that pen light, let's say to about 100 feet away from me, that I would be able to see that light. And now I just keep moving that light away from me along that same floor, and I get to that, I think it's like 265 feet or something like that where this was shot. So I get to that 265 feet mark. Now that light has essentially set without moving any other variables. So it's just distance from me. And to me, my argument is that it's because of the incident angle that it's reaching the lens at against the tangible surface. So that to me would be a setting sun. It'd be a setting pen light, right? I just set that pen light by moving it away from me.
But what is the what is the level of the pen light in relation to your observation? Like, are you looking at that and it's at the same height as your observation, or is it times higher? Like, if you think about this for a second, if your sun is 3,100 miles above the Earth's surface, how far away would it have to go to actually create that angle?
Well, that's the thing. I don't know how high the sun is. The sun is an enigma to me. I'll be honest with you.
And me too, right? We don't all understand it, but how far away? I mean, how high would it have to be, first of all, to be able to make it, far enough away to create the same effect that you're creating here with your cameras? How high up would that have to be to make that angle? It wouldn't be very high, right?
You have to get rid of refraction.
Yeah, but using his basic geometry, you need quite a height on that sun in order to get that far.
My point is, what size is the sun? Right? So you'd have to take the noon, I guess, observation of the angular size, right? And then you would have to say that and then you'd have to observe it within a non-refracted atmosphere, but we can't do that. There's refraction no matter what we do. So it's an enigma to me.
Well, refraction has
like a red herring.
Refraction has you can actually calculate refraction, so you can use that to help determine these questions, like to answer these questions.
How do you?
Well, I'm not a physicist, but you can calculate it by density of atmosphere, and you know how light refracts, right? So if you know that, and we do know how much light refracts based on a density. So if we know what the density of the air is at a specific time, which I suppose we can test, right? Then we should be able to take out refraction from any of our calculations when we're doing that stuff. And we do, of course, know about refraction. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be having this discussion, right? So ultimately, the sun, the size of the sun is definitely bigger than that flashlight. We know that much, and it's definitely farther away. So with that in mind, my question is, with this experiment, and nobody's really talking about things going, you have to be able to go far enough away to reach the coveted angle of attack, so to speak.
Well, I guess I have two questions. And is the question about the sun, or is the question about bottom-up obstruction?
Well, bottom-up obstruction has two properties, right? From physical objects that are actually on the Earth, and then there's the one from the sun. They actually have two different natures, right? Because one is actually right here with us, the other one is quite far away. So things on our planet can disappear simply because of the uneven floor factor, right? Because the topography of the Earth is such that something can be 10 feet away from me and I can't see it, or hundreds of feet away from me, right? Or miles. It just depends on the topography for that kind of stuff. There's also refraction that can do that. We know this too. Refraction can bring things back into view that are actually farther away.
Okay, I have no problem with either of those explanations.
Right. So those are all accepted, I think, by most
Hold on, Shane. Let him get the answer back.
Yeah, you're right. I'm gonna mute myself now.
No. I mean, that was my point. That my point is that there are probably I can think of at least 3 solid reasons, in my opinion, why things get obstructed bottom first in different scenarios. So the first one is just how far you can see along a tangible surface. If that tangible surface is closer to the observer than the other tangible surface on the other side of whatever observation you're making, things will get obstructed along that surface sooner. That's the first part. The second part.
The life is short. Was it you the one that made that? Oh shoot!
Well, just let me get the 3 parts out, and then you can talk. So then the second part was that small obstructions in the foreground, by the way perspective works, would obstruct something getting smaller with angular size in the distance. So a small wave could obstruct something larger that is getting smaller with distance. And then the third part would be refraction. And in my opinion, refraction as a downward, being predominantly downward, is not the case across the ocean. I would say that it's predominantly upward refraction. And that is why it gets obstructed bottom first in a lot of cases. So go ahead.
How would you say that even though all of the refraction indexes show downward, the light bends downward in the denser environment?
Right. So the problem with that I have is that, again, there's a couple reasons that I'm looking into as to why I don't think pressure dissipates at the same rate that they say it does across the ocean. I think it's stabilized during the day to a greater degree. I don't think it dissipates quite as rapidly. And I think temperature then becomes the predominant factor.
Wait a second.
And hold on. And then if temperature is the predominant factor, then you have a predominantly upward refracting medium.
I wasn't going to argue with you. I was just going to try to figure out where the hell you came from. If you're not a typical flat earther, apparently.
Well, no, I don't know. I'm just looking for
like facts. It's weird. That's all I'm saying.
So that's number one. Number two is Red Pill was able to take some visual, like a visual example of this, in my opinion. So he has footage from October, November, December, several months in between of this same observation. I think he's shared this before on the channel of the condominiums, right? And in these condominiums, there's different degrees of refraction phenomena. I don't think anyone would disagree with that, because the floors get all compressed and then they get expanded near the top, and there's all kinds of weird stuff going on like that. There's inferior mirages in some, that kind of thing. So we all agree that refraction's playing some role in some of that. The problem is then that he takes this other set of footage in early January, where it appears that there's very little to no refraction. It's a crystal clear day. The water's perfectly calm. The air temperature, water temperature are the same. There's no differential compression and expansion between the floors. He can see up to 25, 26 miles very easily on that day. And when you compare those images between the ones that he took in October and November and December and all those other times, you see that the horizon level in comparison to where he was along the same stretch of sand in comparison to a near object, which is this tree line that I was able to find in every one of his videos. The horizon is higher with the most crystal clear image, and all the other days and all the other observations taken along the same tree line, it's almost the same branch that you're able to standardize it along. All of those have lower horizons, or I would say apparent horizons. And so to me, what I'm looking at is that the most crystal clear day with the least refractive issues has the highest horizon. And all the other days where there's more obvious refraction going on had lower horizons and lower and greater amounts of obstruction. So to me, that is an indication of upward refraction.
I feel that could also be an indication of you staying around the curve.
Well, you can demonstrate this for yourself with like a Fresnel lens. You can take a Fresnel lens and you can determine, you can cut it in half, and you can determine kind of which direction the little what do you call it, the indentations are going. So you can define which way is up and which way is down as far as like refraction would go. And you can flip it upside down and right side up and look at a can or look at something else and bring the lens near or far, and you will see that in one aspect, the can, or let's say you're looking at across the table, will rise. And then when you flip the lens over, it's going to get obstructed from the bottom. It's going to fall. So that's just a practical kind of example of the difference between upward and downward. So I don't want to get long-winded with you guys. I apologize, but that's cool. To me is the visual evidence of what I think is going on.
I appreciate it. And thank you, Shane. But I don't have that much time to go. I want to give Carlos, I think he had a question. He's been hanging in there. So Carlos, what you got, man? Or if he's away from the keyboard now, then, carry on, guys.
Yeah, I've got a question. I'm sharing at the moment, I think. Live is short. And it's this shot here. I've got it loaded into my iPad so I could sketch on it. So I've got three container ships, and these are all verifiable. That you can look up the actual Hunagayan Spirit specs and things like that. And from 9.9 nautical miles at 2.1 meters high, I get an Earth curve calculator with no refraction. I think of 53 feet. Don't quote me on that, but it's something about like that, which oddly corresponds, like probably to the nearest foot, to the exact amount that I'm missing on this vessel here. I wanted your take on an alternate explanation, given the fact that this geometrically matches the curve calculator, and I can obviously see that there is something occluding or obscuring that vessel.
Yeah, no, I have no problem with bottom-up obstruction, and the Earth curve calculator is to me just a I don't want to use the term hijack.
Before you continue, really quick, but this one is a little special because you got a reference point in the left-hand side, a boat in the foreground that is visible in that image. If you there you go.
I don't have any problem with that. That is obstructed to a certain amount. I don't. That's my whole point. Is I think there's a variety of things that can describe bottom-up obstruction without having to induce physical curvature.
But what I'm saying is the physical curvature in this situation, with very little refraction visible on the Earth other than standard like air refraction, matches this reality and this observation 100% on all of these vessels. So it's kind of what. So my question to you is, if it's not curvature, what is obstructing that vessel to the tune of that amount of it being missing?
Right. So in this particular example, I would argue that there is refraction, because if you look at the boat on the left, you're saying these boats are all the same?
No, these are three separate ships.
Oh, okay. All right. But I would say that there is I would say you can't rule out refraction.
I can have 1.0003 ROI index because that's the air, and I can give you that refraction might be responsible at like a meter above, so maybe this area here, maybe a little bit less, maybe this area here. But that refraction is not altering the underlying geometry and the fact that this amount of the vessel has disappeared. In order for refraction or looming to do something to transform this object, because that's what we're on about here. We're not on about a simple fact of something's moved slightly. We're on about if this was flat and we were looking at this, then this vessel's pilot house would be here. So we're actually looking at a huge drop.
So again, you can't say that, because I would say if the Earth were flat, I would see exactly what you're seeing in your picture right there.
If
someone says that if the Earth were flat, you would see this. You can't do that. That's a straw man.
Right. So wait a minute. The reason why I say that, though, just to justify it slightly, is I'm a geometric artist. So I know that doesn't matter what cameras I set up, and I can set up virtual physically represented cameras with physical lens shaders, and everything that a normal camera is in a 3D virtual space. I can make an infinite flat plane. I can have focal lengths to 8 million millimeters if I want, and I can never make this happen because geometrically it is impossible, even with refraction.
No, that's not true. So you can model in refraction into a 3D program, and you can get bottom-up obstruction just like you can get with the Fresnel lens.
You can't get bottom-up. Right, you can't get bottom-up.
Did I hear Fresnel lens?
Yeah, so you're well aware of how perfect a refraction-controlled volume has to be called a lens, right?
Okay, so let's back up. So does light bend up or down? It can bend up or down depending on the lens, right?
Depending on the angle of incidence, actually, and the IOR, yes.
Fair enough. So depending on whatever the medium is, right? The density of the medium that it's going through, how about that?
And the angle in which case it transfers from that medium either gradually or at an incidence point. Yes, it depends.
Okay, so if there is a less dense medium above the water level, then you are going to get upward refraction, correct?
If there's a less dense, yes.
All right, so if this water is all choppy and it's possibly a little bit warmer than the air above it, you would get upward refraction within the observer layer that you're viewing through.
Water is never warmer than the air above it unless you physically change it.
Yeah.
Water is never warmer than the air above it.
Yeah, if you don't heat it yourself, it just doesn't get warmer than the air above it.
Yeah. So
hold on really quick. I don't know. I've taken a lot of observations, and I think 1 or 2 times I have had the warmer than the air.
Yeah. Well, wait a minute. Yeah, no. In general, the ocean is what distributes heat around probably about 50% or 60% of the planet. I'm in a temperate climate in the United Kingdom because of the North Atlantic current, not because the air was heated and it blew up here. So I'm getting temperature from that ocean, and it's extracting the warmth from it into the air. So the statement is probably, given a few very, very specific circumstances, 90% true, if not more.
Right. So
yeah, I stand corrected. I wasn't completely accurate. Yeah.
Correct. So the question is how high does this phenomenon extend? That's my question. And so I find several papers that have it at least, about 10 meters or so. You could argue anywhere from 5 to 10 meters up at least that you're getting this kind of upward or this emission from the ocean, this emission layer, this emission refraction versus like an absorption refraction.
If you get, I'm sorry to cut in, but if you get distortion or you get enough atmospheric refraction to cause that much distortion, it would be obvious on the photo.
Yeah, so Sean's just brought up a really good point there.
That's my point, though.
No, so what we'd get here is if you look at this photo, I can see, and I'll just draw on some quick little guides for you.
So
no,
I
get it. I get it. I totally get it. My point is that because you are seeing that orange part that you've drawn there on the bottom, because that is obstructed, that is to me evidence of refraction. That's my point.
Right. So I hear this a lot from flat earthers, but the problem is the maths, optics, and reality cannot demonstrate that point of which you're trying to make right now, to the tune of this. Now, I'm not being ridiculous saying that refraction can hide a small portion of it via some looming effect because of given situations that are quite scarce. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I will never see 50% of a 100-foot object disappear due to refraction while still clearly being able to see the straight lines of red that I've seen there and the pilot house and this being undistorted. It's just not possible.
But I can replicate that across a table with a lens. That's my point. Is you can do that with a lens and see that you obstruct things bottom first across a flat table.
So wait a minute. So your claim now is that you could take a flat table, have a lens, perpendicular lens, and be looking at an object and move it away at a distance, and you could show that it would start becoming obstructed from the bottom up. Is that correct?
Correct.
Based on refraction.
Yes. So if you guys, I don't know if you have a Fresnel lens. So if you go on Amazon, you buy a Fresnel lens.
Right. So the issue that I've got there is I cannot. The idea of wait a minute. The idea of this experiment is we cannot induce physical light controls that are so accurate that we wouldn't be able to detect them into real observations. I have no doubt that if I were, let's say, a deity or a god, that I could create a lens system that only for the observer, me, would be able to replicate what I'm looking at on screen right now. I've got no problem with that. If I had, infinite powers and I could create a medium of such perfect, precision, I could make this happen. But the thing about a lens is it would only be for me. Now, whether I'm closer or further away, it breaks down. Whether I'm left or right, it breaks down. And that would be given a perfect lens.
And if the air was so dense with moisture that you could create that effect, you'd drown.
Well, I don't know about that one. I'll have to digest the previous one. To me, all you're saying is that you don't have a problem with a relative observer phenomenon. In other words, what I see is not what another person sees.
Right.
You do have a
no. So what I'm saying is, at 45 degrees to this vessel, given the same distance, looking over the same water, there is no lensing effect that would produce this for both of those individuals unless they were in their own reality. Because in order for a Fresnel lens to do this, I would angle it very specifically, and it would have to be perfect. There would be no imperfections in it.
So, what I'm saying with the Fresnel lens is that it's just a way for someone to demonstrate to themselves how this occurs. But when you're looking at this over water, there's a less dense layer over the water. That's what is happening.
Okay.
So
my question. Sorry, I've got really
45-degree angle. I'm going to see the same thing just from a different observer position.
All right. So I've got a question to you then. Do you believe that if a lens powerful enough, or lensing effect, let's just call it, powerful enough to transform this object down that much, do you think that would be visible in the air? And do you think that would be possible given atmospherics?
You're saying, could I? You're saying, could I see the air? Could I see?
No. Well, what I'm saying is, so I'm trying to get what your assertion is here, because your assertion seems to be, because obviously a lens is a very it's a glass medium. Most lenses,
whereby we have a
well, no, I mean water acts. What I mean by lensing is just refraction. That's all I mean. A lens refracts.
But all
different mediums refract. So it's
but
a
all
medium.
but all of those lenses are perfect. They are manufactured perfect. I mean, if you spent money, you get a little red ring around your lens if you bought Canon, and that's the L series.
Right. No. Okay. So just replace the word lens with a medium. Right. So you could say water. Right.
Right. Right. So wait a minute. Let's stop right there. Let's focus on this. So say water can be used as a lens. Yes, it can. Could we take photos through this water in front of us now? And expect it to come out clear, or would we see visual artifacts and it be pointless and irrelevant to us? So in other words, if I could have a lens made out of water that has got a fractal displacement on top of it like these waves, how useful is that to me? Now, when you say that refraction does something in the atmosphere, do you think that refraction is so constant that I can't detect it, yet it is so perfect that it transforms and keeps relative size and shape? Because that must be your assertion. Your assertion in explaining this the way that you have must be, one, that the atmosphere is doing it. Two, that atmosphere has created a lensing effect so perfect that it's created no other distortions and is completely uniform.
I can do this all day.
Yes. So
Watch.
yeah. So the that's in there's a part 4 in the series. If you want to look at that, then how I explain why sometimes you see compression and sometimes you don't. And sometimes you get the inferior mirage effect.
No offense, life is short, but I've asked you about two assertions that I'm trying to figure out, is this what your assertions are?
Right. So my assertion is that if you have a
magnification,
linear, a fairly linear upward medium, right? A fairly linear optically dense or less optically dense medium rising from the sea and heading up towards the upper atmosphere, then you would see a relatively even object in the distance obscured from the bottom by the same amount. Now, if that's a rapidly dissipating or expanding and compressing medium, then you would see a lot more distortions in that object.
Yes, hellish distortions. And
right.
it would be non-uniform over even a couple of meters as well. In fact, I've seen some amazing footage from the Plain Truth. He actually showed me some footage where I could actually see a band of heated air moving in from right to left, about to engulf a boat, and it looked surreal. But I could actually, even though all I could see was everything behind it, I could see it due to what was happening to the things behind it. Now, in order for me to accept you on your premise, that would have to be so perfect in coming in that I just wouldn't notice until suddenly it dipped things down. But there's another little problem here as well.
I see what you're saying.
Yes,
it's because it's because like the boat that's distant there is more obstructed than the boat that's maybe to the far left. Is that what you're saying? Like that
No.
Because I would argue that it's just stacking, right? The more you're looking through, the more this effect is going to stack.
Yes, but you're also saying that there is a band of air so perfect that it's creating a perfect lensing effect.
No, it's just linear. It's just fairly linear and gradual.
So you're saying this is a rectilinear lens, and so with this lens that's doing this, what would happen if I got closer to it or further away? At what point do things start transforming or moving then?
If you got closer to this boat, let's say you get in a boat and you went closer to it, you'd be seeing through less and less refracted medium as you got closer, and the object would be less and less refracted downward.
Okay, that sounds logical.
Sorry,
That's a cool
that was my cue.
But...
That was my cue to jump in and say goodbye to the YouTube universe live. But I will I will continue to record this to premiere later. Either that, or I can maybe send the file to Repeal Philosophy if he wanna show the after show in his channel as a premiere, or anybody else that want it. I'm just gonna record at least an hour before I go to work, so I really gotta do the closing statement so everybody have a chance to speak your final thoughts, and then I'll continue recording offline to premiere later. Farmers, final thoughts of the day.
I don't know. I've not really had much of a chance to contribute to this one, but no, it's strange that we want to entertain every possible reason why those ships are disappearing, except for the obvious one. You can't discount the curve.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Life is short. Final thoughts on this one.
I would just say that I would like to see all the other reasons why things can obstruct bottom first eliminated before entertaining the curve.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Rebel Rob, final thoughts.
Earth is flat, period. They have not proven that there is a curve. The only way that they can try to prove that there is a curve is by hijacking perspective, which is what Globies continue to do. So good job, Red Pill.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Sean Huggins.
The Earth is round, and I got a new buddy. He's my new pincushion. You check him out.
Thank you, Sean. Shane?
Yeah. Science has proven all the stuff you say isn't proven. You all can test it. None of you do. And it's your turn to actually present something that shows evidence of the flat Earth, which you haven't done. You're trying. And I want to thank you to Life is Short, because you are by far the most logical flat earther I've ever heard of.
Thank you very much, Shane. And welcome. Yeah, first time you join in. I'm glad to have you here.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Jose.
Dean?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Life is Short as well, because and he is it's very nice to talk to, and he does seem very open, and I'd like to have further discussions with him. Good show, Jose. Cheers.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. The Red Pill Philosophy.
Yeah, thanks again. Great show, Jose. Sean claims to be pro-science, but now he's playing with like superstitious voodoo dolls. So I don't know what the hell that's about.
Run.
I don't think I'm able to sleep tonight. What we witnessed today was classic moving of the globe post. It's Globetard's favorite thing. You know, when ships disappearing bottom up, sometimes they're actually looming up because of super duper refraction. Now they want to show, instead of referring to ships disappearing bottom up, now they're showing us a picture of a sunset and saying that's their new slam dunk proof, until we, the skeptics, find alternative reasons other than the ancient presupposed Earth curvature. So that's basically it. It's just disgraceful. Another moving of the globe post we witnessed today was the curvy, bumpy floor. The floor is bumpy, and that's why you can't see a light. Oh, they specifically went out to see if it's caused by a bumpy floor, and it turns out the light was missing at the same elevation as when both cameras were at the same elevation. So wait, is that bumpy floor, or is that something to do with the optics? And then Dean proceeded to explain how optics can cause things to disappear, not physical Earth obstruction. So just classic moving the globe post. That's all. Thanks.
Kyrie Irving believes it to be flat.
No.
You saw this, right?
Don't get me started.
So we are not on a spinning ball.
Okay.
We're on a flat, motionless.
Oh, this is flat Earth. So you're pitching this as a serious call.
Yeah, no, that's serious.
Welcome back, my woke friends. Earth looks flat, it feels flat. The logical explanation is the Earth is flat, right?
No.
You saw this, right?
Don't get me started. And that dude who jumped out of a perfectly good balloon, what's his name? Felix Baumgartner.
It's billed as the free fall from the edge of space.
Don't get me started. He would have been about 2 millimeters above the surface of this globe. That's his edge of space jump.
And you don't see the curve of the Earth at any altitude. And then
you can see the curve of the Earth at certain altitudes, though.
Yeah, I was on a plane to get here and I saw it.
Yeah.
This morning, the Austrian daredevil plans to jump from 23 miles above the New Mexican desert. That's 120,000 feet, 4 times higher than most passenger planes fly.
And not only that, they made sure to photograph him standing there with a really wide-angle lens, which curves horizontal lines. So in the photo, you see this curvature of Earth's surface, and he said, wow, he's in space, look at that. No, he's not!
And so when I went flying from England to Africa,
the curvature that I saw, would that be just something that I expected to see and my sort of eyes made it look that way?
It was observation that showed us the Earth's curvature in the first place. And if you don't believe all of those scientists and government people for some reason, fly in an airplane and behold an inarguably spherical Earth.
At that height, you don't see the curvature of the Earth if you are 2 millimeters above this beach ball.
This is a man who just minutes ago was going 536 miles an hour, break the sound barrier on his way down.
The sky was totally black, I could see the curvature of the Earth, so that was amazing today.
You don't see the curvature of the Earth.
I could see the curvature of the Earth.
You don't see the curvature of the Earth if you are 2 millimeters above this beach ball. You just don't. That stuff is flat.
I travel a lot and I fly a lot and I can see the curvature when I fly.
Okay, so 35,000 feet, you can see it, right? That's what you're saying?
Generally speaking, I can see a slight curve to it, yeah.
Okay, so Neil deGrasse Tyson says that you can't see it at that altitude, so I really...
This really doesn't matter. We have satellites.
That stuff is flat. That stuff is flat. Don't get me started.